This is a disclaimer. This podcast features 4 professional idiots who share their insights and anecdotes. This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. This podcast represents the opinions of the guests and should not be taken as medical, legal, or professional advice.
All right. Yay.
Hooray, beer.
Hooray, beer. What's up, Ben?
Hello.
Hey, buddy. How you doing, man?
Oh, you know, living the life as an intern. Right now.
You know, I thought my brother Patrick was going to have the most serious sounding voice in this group. I was wrong. Forgot how much intern year can break someone's spirit.
Yeah, the microphone. That's not for you, that's for me.
Wow, Ramon figures out how to use the mic.
I know, Ramon was here early. Ramon is not himself today.
Everyone sounds like a chipmunk. I've done something horribly wrong.
No way, really?
I can't figure it out. Scared. And now my cat won't let me touch the microphone. She's decided it's hers. She's scary, man. She's got teeth.
Everyone. So do I just sound like Alvin right now?
I think my wife's coming to help me.
Okay, yes, please help him. He needs an adult.
It's scary. I'm scared.
Shit. He needs adults supervision, that's for sure.
Thanks, babe. Thank you for getting the evil beast away from the microphone.
Ramon, it's amazing. You're both like simultaneously 80 and 30 at the same time.
Well, if I can't get my microphone set up, you want the cat to sub in for me? She's pretty loud.
Shockmuck, I've heard her. She's scary, dude. When she's pissed, she's just like...
Yeah, because Megan's holding her now, and she hates being held. That is her punishment.
Wait, do you guys still have the dog?
Yeah, we have a dog now. Her name's Ripley. She's terrifying, but she's a sweetheart.
Isn't that the dog that's also like... Is it still super scared of everything and hides in the corner?
Yeah, pretty much. Although she's not as scared as me anymore. She's really good with Megan. She likes Megan. For me, I can kind of pet her. She likes to play with me, so she likes playing fetch, which is cute now.
Like you're playing fetch?
But if I just go to pet her normally, she freaks out and goes, "Oh God!"
Hands. Yeah. That's rescues are. I've heard that a lot. That rescues, they're great dogs. They're great to have, but man, something happened to them, and they are not normal, and they are very.
No, she's got like doggy PTSD. So like she's been having like just episodes. Like there's just Vietnam flashbacks that happen at like 11 o'clock at night now, and she just starts barking for like 25 minutes. Either that or she's finally met the ghost in the house and they don't get along. So I don't know. It's either option A or option B.
I'm sorry. What? Your house is haunted?
Yeah, kind of. I don't know.
What?
Depends on if you believe in that sort of stuff.
What?
Yeah, so I think at one point, my wife's standing right here because she's poking the cat. It was the previous tenant or the tenant before. Obviously not the previous tenant, it's my brother.
It's your brother.
Before my family came into this house, someone took their life
died unexpectedly.
Yeah, died unexpectedly somewhere in the kitchen or something like that. No details. I don't know. I just get weird vibes in the kitchen at night. But maybe that's just my guilty conscience telling me to eat salad instead of cupcakes. What is cool is an iHome attached to one of the cabinets in our kitchen that turns on its own sometimes. And for a while, it was doing Christmas music through static. So our ghost likes Christmas music. Honestly, it's probably an electrical thing, but I like to think, it's the ghost wants to hear Jingle Bells in April.
Did the person who took their life do it around Christmas? Do you hear me, Ramon?
I can't really hear people. That's why I'm just kind of talking and rambling. So thank you for tolerating this.
But you can...
No, it's a connection issue. Everyone sounds like they're underwater. Alternate headphones.
I was going to say, it's like he's responding, but he's not.
I bet, or I have dementia. My wife we were having fun, did the mini mental exam, and I genuinely failed the story part where she tells me a story and asks me the questions afterwards. My problem is they in the description they mentioned that these two couples, there's a lady and a devastatingly handsome man. So, anyways, I thought that was a funny detail to put in a medical exam. So I failed all the questions afterwards, asking me details about what I just heard. So I got hung up on.
Oh, Ramon, are you drunk?
No, I'm just this way.
I meant to ask because I was like, oh wait, he's back home and safe. He would have probably had a couple drinks to celebrate. So.
No, I ate too much pizza and I was overstimulated by this awesome arcade, and it was too much for my little brain to handle, and so I needed to take a nap.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
Like the most Ramon fucking story.
That's the most Ramon sentence I've heard.
I'm just living the best life, fellas. Just live my best life.
Welcome back to Overqualified Idiots. Thanks for joining. If it's your first time tuning in, this is a podcast where a doctor, a lawyer, a pharmacist, and usually an engineer come together. Today's a special episode. We have a special guest joining us. My name is Dan Casey, MD, Dr. Dan, and we are joined today by Dr. Benjamin, who is, are you med-peds or are you internal medicine?
Yeah, I'm an internal medicine pediatric resident. So basically, I thought I wanted to, sell my soul for another year and another degree.
Well, hey, we'll get into that here in a bit. But hey, thanks for joining us. For context, Ben and I have known each other since college. We've gone through, essentially the same experiences, similar experiences, I should say, in terms of going through the medical field, going through med school, and now you are getting close to the end of your intern year.
Yeah, we have like 2.5 more months?
Yeah, man, almost there. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and then you get some nice starry-eyed, bright-eyed interns to trick to join your program, and then they be the workhorses for you for a year.
That would be the end goal. No one wants to be a note jockey anymore.
Oh yeah, it'd be a note monkey forever. Joining me today for our retail pharmacist position is Ramon.
Hi there.
I would like to take a special moment to wish Ramon a happy birthday.
Oh, thank you guys. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, dude, it was a fun day. We got to hang out like a normal adult who went to an arcade. Yep. That place is awesome, by the way.
Isn't it? Yeah, there's an arcade here in Mesa called Starfighters Arcade, and it's got like 80 different, I'd probably say, there's probably about, 40 or 50 cabinets, and then on top of that, like 40 pinball machines, would you say, Dan? Something like that?
Yeah, I mean, that place was huge, and it was wall to wall. So kudos to that place. Shout out to that. Check it out if you're near and able, because it is a ton of fun. Yeah. And yeah, we had that place rented out for 3 hours? And I was kind of overstimulated by all the lights and noise. Yep. And that was like the perfect amount of time to call it.
I had to go home and take a nap. It was too much for my two brain cells to handle. It was overload.
And joining us as the JD, as our Esquire, is Pat Casey.
Yo.
Yo. So how do you sound so muted all the time?
Who, me?
No, the other one. Anyways, moving on. So, small talk. How's everybody doing?
Oh, I'm selling my soul to the VA hospital. And for those that don't know, it's the Veterans Affairs Hospital. And nothing gets done.
Yeah. So you can speak to this more because you obviously you're in it in the moment. But I remember working in the Tucson VA hospital during my training, where I went to med school at U of A in Tucson, and we rotated there multiple times. And I remember people saying, like, this is the best run VA hospital in the country. And I was like, wow, that's surprising because this is kind of shit. And so, like, the best VA is like a below average hospital. So I can't imagine what other VAs, especially the one you might be working at, are like.
I mean, the joke that I have, and granted it is only the third day, so obviously I know a whole lot about how the VA is run. But, like, it's just the VA, for those that don't know, I mean, just the government doesn't want to put a lot of money, it seems, into, let's say, things like the EMR or electronic medical record system. So, like, I kid you not when I feel like I'm back in, like, 1990s and I'm back in the computer lab in my elementary school and I'm playing with, like, Windows 90 and there's, like, the dial-up tones and everything with their electronic record system.
It's dial-up internet.
Don't make any phone calls, otherwise someone will die.
Don't pick up the phone. His life support's connected to the web.
to the dial-up.
How is that possible? Like,
it's not. It's probably not
understand.
dial-up, but the EMRs, the old school electronic medical records, the first ones that came out, well, they were written by programmers, and they didn't know how doctors did their job. And to be perfectly honest, when paper charts were still a thing, doctors didn't know how to do their job on computers, in a big way. So the original EMRs, I can't think of the name of it. Oh my god. Can you help me out, Ben? Do you remember?
Citrus or something?
Yeah. It's just, there's nothing intuitive about it. Anything in terms of, like, user friendliness, absolutely not. It was entirely designed by programmers for programmers. So when it comes to charting, when it comes to typing, it's like trying to find, like, I remember back in the day when I would play video games on the computer, and you had to, like, type in codes or, like, little bits instead of icons that you could just click on to open a program. And so it's kind of like that in some cases, where it's like you have to. I swear I remember having to type in commands to bring up things.
Man prompts? That's like MS-DOS type.
Yeah, DOS. That's it. That was the word I was looking for. Yeah, it was shit like that in some instances. Not many, but it's not easy to work with. And you're absolutely right that the government has not pumped money into what is essentially the infrastructure and the how we do our job element. It's just essentially goes towards treatment. And the good thing that is that veterans do often get pretty good care when they get it. It's just that, I mean, many of them are in poor health and don't seek care, and so sometimes we're seeing people on very bad days. But kind of getting away from the point. Yeah, I figured that we're already diving into it in terms of, like, what our day-to-day lives look like. Because I wanted to do an episode where we just chatted about, hey, what the heck do doctors do? What does a lawyer do? I mean, I could only imagine you get clients who are like, well, you worked 3 hours and you're billing me this much. What the hell did you do? Well, this is the time to shine and, talk about what our, day-to-day schedules and itineraries look like and really flush that out. And I wanted to include something fun, something funny. I can talk endlessly about days that did not go right, but I wanted to see if you guys had any funny stories to share of a special day that stood out. Ramon, I know, try to pick your favorites because you've got plenty.
This one happened recently, but
yeah, I want you to take the floor.
But okay, yeah. So as Dan mentioned at the beginning, I am a retail pharmacist. I am a pharmacist. I work in a pharmacy that offers pharmacy services. They offer vaccines and they offer testing. Unfortunately, that environment has been the norm for the last year and a half. So it's good in that we're offering these services to the community, and especially during a time, during the pandemic, to be able to be there for people in that capacity has been nice. The only problem is the company that I work for has not increased staffing or increased any pay substantially to keep its employees. So we've been hemorrhaging help left and right. And so it's, the day-to-day life right now is just sort of frantically running around, apologizing profusely to the people who come into my pharmacy that things are not ready. And I wish I could provide better service, but it's it's kind of a hot mess. But, for the most part, at least in the before the pandemic, when we were just doing pharmacy and, just flu shots and the occasional shingle shot, that sort of thing, it's still pretty darn busy. I think there's a misconception that all we do is count by fives and just sip coffee. And that's part of it. That certainly is it. But it's a lot. I don't think it's as frantic as people understand. And so most of my day is trying to field whatever phone calls come through, whatever questions are at the counter, releasing prescriptions, making sure that the prescriptions are correct. So it's just a lot, and no single task is a difficult task. But the reason why your prescriptions take so gosh darn long to do, because you're right, the typical retort that we hear is, how long does it take to put pills in a bottle? And I think there's even a Scrubs episode where JD yells at the little old lady pharmacist in the outpatient pharmacy, how long does it take to put pills in a bottle? And that act does not take long at all. What it is it's entering in the prescription, making sure that it's correct, billing the insurance, then filling it, and then getting my butt back over to the computer and making sure that it's all done correctly. And if it were just one prescription, it would take, probably about 5 minutes total for that process. But we do about, 400 or 500 a day. So that's why, if you've ever wondered why it takes so gosh darn long to get your prescription done, it's just because you're not the only person on the planet.
Some people don't. Some people aren't aware of that.
It's a hard concept for people to grasp, but I really do try though to be accommodating to people. And if someone needs something, fast, or if it's for a kid or an infant, of course we triage and get stuff out faster. But it's not. It's just retail, right? If anyone who's ever worked retail or the general public can appreciate that, or has worked anything in customer service, that's really what most of my day is normally like. Now, some days something wacky happens, and that's just anytime you work with the general public. So I had a day about a month ago where this was the first time that someone stole a prescription right out of my hand. I've never had anyone steal any prescriptions, but
God.
This one was stolen right out of my hand. So this patient came in. We're assuming that this patient was probably homeless, and it didn't make the news or anything like that, so it should be pretty. I don't think you'll be able to Google any of this, so I think it should be okay. But anywho, recently we just got not recently, but in the last couple of years, we've been able to close the pharmacy for lunch. Because that's the other thing too that was kind of rough with pharmacy. You're in a fast-paced environment, and sometimes you can work up to 12-hour shifts, but you don't get any breaks. That changed about 2 years ago. They finally let us close the pharmacy from 1:30 to 2 for a little lunch break. So I get lunches now, so that's great. So
what a concept!
A little Capri Sun.
Yeah, exactly. I get a little juice box and eat my Lunchable in the corner and just cry. But it's good. I need that. But so anyway, so this patient rolls up to the counter, and they have a prescription that was from the emergency room that's sent to another. Crap. Let's edit that. That's sent to another pharmacy.
Fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post, right? So I have a patient roll up to the counter. They have a prescription that's at another pharmacy, but I can still see it in my system. And this particular patient, they don't have their insurance information with them. They might be homeless, and they have nothing on them. And so what we do, because we have to close for lunch in a couple of minutes, what we do is we provide this patient the phone number to call, because this patient mentioned at a competitor pharmacy they used to get their prescriptions in California. And we thought, well, maybe you can call that competitor pharmacy to get your insurance information, because I got nothing. Nothing's popping up in the system. So this person who's in a wheelchair leaves and goes to the front where they can use their phone, our phone and photo, and we close the pharmacy. We go for lunch. And so we come back, and apparently this person comes right back up to the counter. We have their prescriptions ready to go. And during the lunch break, they didn't really call that other competitor pharmacy. They just, I guess, ranted and yelled at the people in photo about God knows what. So they weren't really thrilled at this person. So this person's already causing a ruckus. I don't know. Maybe they're having a bad day. You never know what people are struggling with, right? So we get this person's prescription ready, and my techs are kind of tired of dealing with this person because they're kind of rowdy. So I make sure that I'm the one to ring them up and try and make sure that everything's right. And so I get the prescriptions, and I have to verify that this person is the intended recipient of these prescriptions, right? And so I asked for ID. The person has no ID on them. I figured that's okay. I'm not going to push the issue. As long as I can confirm the name and date of birth, I think we should be okay. So they provide me the name and date of birth, and they also show, hey, I got a hospital bracelet. So I check that. And so that matches up with everything that I have. So I'm like, okay, great. I've got the right medications.
That didn't strike you as like a red flag?
Well,
or like were they fresh out of the hospital?
Yeah. So I mean,
Okay.
but at a certain point too, like these medications weren't controlled substances. They could verify because they couldn't verify their address, and I didn't want to push that subject in case they were homeless.
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's kind of poor taste. But at the very least, the name and date of birth were matching up, and they had a medical bracelet that also matched that name, date of birth. So I didn't really think anyone would honestly like steal a medical bracelet. That would be kind of a weird racket, and also know that there's a prescription in my system. You know what I mean? So I figured that
the stars aligning. That probably is probably unlikely.
So I felt reasonably that I had the correct person, and so I start the ringing out process. And this person was like, "Well, I couldn't find the insurance information, so I'm just gonna pay out of pocket for it." And I was like, "Okay." And this patient said, "But hey, could you just show me the prescriptions?" And
Wait,
I thought,
no.
well, I thought to myself, I
no.
was like, well, you know what? I want to be accommodating. Yeah, of course, because I want to make sure that we're being discreet and show them the names of the medications.
Yeah.
So I lean into the counter, and I'm also have my guard down too because I'm just I want to help this person. I see they're in a wheelchair. I want to help them out, and I thought to myself, surely they're not going to take off with these prescriptions.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be pretty far from if they're in a wheelchair. That was a detail you left out. So I would have thought.
Yeah,
You're like
and so
painting the picture of like an actual drug deal at a pharmacy.
maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm incriminating myself. So this needs to be edited out. Just completely get rid of it. But anyways, so this patient's in a wheelchair. I feel like I've identified the person, and so the person looks at it and says, "That's me, but those aren't my meds." And I thought, oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me take these back. And so before I can pull him back over the counter, he reaches over, grabs them, and then starts shouting, "These aren't my meds." And they start wheeling back. And then they start taking off down the aisle. And I come around the pharmacy counter because we're not really allowed to chase people down. But I remember shouting out to the patient, "Hey, I apologize. Please come back. Let's fix it. I need to ring those up. I need to ring those up for you. Please come back." And that patient just was gone, and I just watched them wheel down the aisle.
So they just took them out of your hand and like wheeled away.
And just wheeled out the store.
But they're yelling, "These aren't my meds" while they're leaving?
No, I think it might have been a diversion tactic.
What the hell?
So the whole thing, like, this patient was like throwing me off with, just, I'm going to pay for it. Don't worry about it. I was like, okay, all right, that's fine. Well, let me see. I want to make sure that those are the right meds. And then, we have that little exchange and I show him, "Hey, is this you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I confirm that's me, but those aren't my meds. Those aren't my meds." And so like I said, I tried to pull him back. I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me see what else is gone. Maybe I missed something." Right. And that's when they were snatched out of my hand. They took them and wheeled right off. And I watched them.
Right on down.
They wheeled right on down the aisle. And then, we went about our business. My coworkers made fun of me for the whole afternoon. And then when the police officer showed up to take a statement, because, of course, our policy is we have to at least file a police report. The officer, part of the statement that they took, and that poor officer had other stuff to do than, come take a statement from my idiot self. And one of the details he asked, I think it's probably routine for taking a statement, was, "Well, did you get a height of the individual?" To which I looked at the officer like, "Well, not really. He was in a wheelchair and sitting down." And both of us kind of looked at each other and went, "Yeah, okay, all right, moving on." Did you get how high this how tall this person was? Nope, he was in a wheelchair. So that's just some of the weird stuff you deal with the general public. And now I don't I don't let my guard down. I guess I don't make assumptions because people always surprise you.
One thing you didn't mention in your day-to-day is sometimes when you catch mistakes or errors or just have questions,
oh god,
you have to call doctors' offices.
I do, yeah. So I spend a lot of my time, talking to medical assistants and just explaining to them that like we need how many units of insulin a patient needs to use on a prescription. That's all right. It's not their fault.
Well, people can get hurt if they don't know.
I know, but they just don't have the training. It's not their fault. I try not to get upset because MAs work really hard. They really do, and I just but it's small clerical things. Really, I don't get into too many arguments about therapeutic stuff.
Yeah, and I guess that can kind of segue into just a small part of something that for me is a lot of my day, in addition to seeing patients in the clinic, I'd say I very rarely actually have to talk to pharmacists. I've had 2 conversations. One was a question about a med, and the other was to tell, and this is where I kind of wanted to run this by you, Ramon, because I thought it was really weird. I prescribe a lot of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. I throw out ibuprofens and naproxens like candy in the musculoskeletal world. And, well, they thin your blood. So if you're on a blood thinner like Coumadin or Xarelto or something, you can't take them together.
Right, exactly. That's an interaction. Depending on so the way I would field it is if the patient's had it before, I'd think about duration of how long they're taking it for before I'd like freak out and call the doctor.
Sure.
I've definitely come across things like that. But yeah, tell me about your story. What happened?
Yeah, so one of the things that is relevant, it's not new, but it's new in the sense that it's been only over the counter for a couple of years, is Voltaren gel or diclofenac gel.
Did he call you about Voltaren gel? And
a blood thinner. And so here's the thing that was really weird.
Yeah.
So I had to find the 2018 American Journal of Pharmacy article and read it to him. But as I found it and started telling him, hey, your literature says it's okay. Your guys' journal. He pulls out, he's just like, hold on, I have to read this to you. And he started reading me like what felt like the Riot Act. It was like this disclaimer of like, I cannot abide by this patient safety concern. I have to take the patient safety. He was reading a script of some kind. Do you know what that was?
No, I don't. But there is a provision for pharmacists, and I think for good reason, that for whatever reason, a pharmacist can refuse to fill a prescription. And usually that comes from therapeutic concerns. It helps me out a lot when I do see a prescription that I really just don't agree with. Not like on a moral ground, just like a safety concern.
Yeah.
But or if it's like someone's just prescribing a lot of controlled substances that are concerning, that gives me the right to just sort of step away and say, hey, I don't think I agree with the decisions we're doing here.
Okay.
I think maybe you could try another pharmacy, but some pharmacists get really weird about that. And try and block Voltaren gel.
It's over the counter, man. It's on aisle 5. Like, what the hell?
The other thing that's cute is it's topical, man. It's not. There's a whole chunk of that's just not going to get absorbed systemically, right? Like, because I'm sure that's what the journal was saying, right? That's what the whole point of the article was.
Yeah, there's no interaction.
Freak out.
Short of taking a bathtub,
Yeah, sure. Exactly. As long as you don't roll around on the floor, if it's like covered in, as long as you don't use an entire tube, I guess. But yeah, most of it's localized. So yeah,
this guy was not having it. He's reading me. He's like, sir, hold on, sir. I hear you. I'm going to continue finishing this because it's going to tell you why I'm not going to fill this script.
Oh, weird.
Okay. Anyway, and I hung up because I wasn't going to waste any more time on that.
So yeah, day in the life. I wish I had time to do that. I don't know where that pharmacist is coming from. Maybe they worked at a slow grocery store and had the time to do that.
To block Voltaren gel.
So kudos for them for being really diligent. But did they at least offer an alternative? Because that's the thing that I try not to do. If I don't want to fill something because I'm worried about patient safety or an interaction, I try to have an alternative. Did he have an alternative for you?
No. This person was not reasonable at all. The fact that I was reading his journal, his profession's literature to him, he didn't care what I had to say. That was the point. I'm being much more generous in terms of his demeanor and how he was talking to me.
I apologize on behalf.
You're fine. I very rarely have trouble. If anything, every encounter I've had with a pharmacist has been a pleasant one.
Yeah, so there you go. That's a good day in the life thing. Yeah, so sometimes, pharmacists, we do have to call your doctor's office. So that's why things can that's also why your prescription can take so gosh darn long. And usually it's something clerical. Usually it's like, hey, I can't read this handwriting, or like, hey, this quantity seems out of whack. I don't think you need 40 bottles of this chlorhexidine mouth rinse. I think there's an error. or like the one that comes over quite a bit is like on the insulins. Sometimes the quantity comes out to like 1,500 vials.
Jesus.
And I think they just meant like, a month's worth. So I don't know, something happens there. But anyways, I'm taking up a lot of the time. But yeah, so most of
No,
the
this is great.
pharmacists.
I don't
So
think people understand anything about pharmacies, so that's perfect.
and it's fine. You don't have to. Like we're no one
You're
cares.
simple people.
Yeah, pharmacists are simple. I run a drive-through. No one cares. It's
So before
we're essential,
Patrick,
but we work in the background.
there you go. So before Patrick falls asleep, because it's a whole 8:50 where he lives, and it's time for him to turn into a pumpkin soon. Pat, what does your day-to-day look like?
Well, I mean, for me, it varies so much, but get up, eat breakfast, go to work, and it depends. Sometimes I have to drive to a faraway land and have court. Not so much in the last year and a half to 2 years, but
Right.
some Mondays start with a trial. Oftentimes Mondays are court time. These days it's on a screen for the most part, but I could have 3 or 4 hearings in any given day, going from one to the next to the next. Some days it's a bunch of phone calls, either talking to current clients or potential clients who want to hire me. And so sometimes, if you're lucky, I get time to prep, and sometimes I might actually get the ability to track my time. That's always a challenge, because it's not just practicing law. It's not just interacting with clients. It's not just providing a service. I also am running a business, so I work with about 14 people, and I'm the I'm the primary responsible, but person there for the most part. I think my partner jokes about him being 75% out the door, but he's there more often than that. But as far as like day-to-day operations, paying bills, signing checks, customer complaints, and all the buck stops, or employee complaints for that matter, buck stops with me. So it's a jack of all trades when you're running your own law firm, and it's different, than a public practice where you're prosecuting or defending, and you go to court and you go home. Sometimes I go home and sit on my couch and I track my time for like the last week or 2 weeks or even a month, depending upon how far I get behind in that. But I probably get about 100 plus emails a day. I sign 5 to 6 letters or pleadings a day, easy. So I'm constantly going from one thing to the next. And when you're working with young associates, I'm answering all of their questions too. So sometimes I know my associates' cases better than I do my own, because we've talked out like what they should do in their case. So when they come back to me with that case again with another question, I remember their case, but the case that's on for tomorrow morning for a first appearance, boy, I better pull that and actually read the complaint to remember what's going to happen tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, it's reading, responding to emails, making phone calls. It's not comparatively, the most of my time is spent just talking to people, employees, customers, opposing counsels. That's pretty much what I do, is run my mouth all day long.
It's perfect for you.
Yeah, I know, because I like to listen to my own voice. I get that. Yeah. Anyways.
We both do. So
Yeah. So as far as like good days look like this, we get people calling us to thank us for the work that we've done. Some people will bring in gifts to my office because of a good outcome, or just they were just I just made their what was a very challenging, heart-wrenching situation easier for them, and they appreciated it. Anytime I get a 5-star Google review, man, from one of my clients, that's always a good day too, because that drives business quite a bit as far as that's concerned. And other days, the bad days that I can think of, usually entail clients calling up and being completely unreasonable, and maybe even raising their voice or swearing at me or something like that because they're upset with their situation, not anything that I have or haven't done. It's beyond my control as far as their emotion is concerned. But I usually shut that down pretty quickly, though.
Yeah, as you should. I get
Yeah.
that. I've got stories. But two things. A, I want to hear a story that stands out. But before that, can you talk about what court proceedings look like a little bit? I'll be honest, I don't know anything beyond what Law and Order shows. And I obviously am sure a fair amount of that is Hollywooded up.
Yeah. So right now, what does that look like? It looks like it's silly. It's a Zoom meeting with a whole bunch of people on the meeting. So normally in arraignment court, where people are there for their first appearances on criminal matters, everybody's there. There's a whole bunch of people up at the courthouse, right? And we all go in, and they got to fill out a rights form and a race census sheet. Now, I don't know why they fill out the race census sheet. They've been doing it for 17 years. I've never seen a study or statistics or anything come from it, but they make everybody fill it out. So they fill out the rights form, and then we usually went down the hall to a different courtroom, and we hurried up and waited. And oftentimes I just sit there and chat with my client. And now via Zoom, I can do it with my mic muted and say, probably more inappropriate things than I could in the hallway of a courthouse. But anyways, so we wait to go in, and then the judge is ready to take cases. We've got enough cases to keep the trains moving. We go in, and oftentimes I'm the first one called or second one called. We go up, and judge calls the case, and we, often they just ask me, "So, Mr. Casey, what are we going to do?" And then I tell them what we're going to do. We're going to waive this, and we're going to set this, and sometimes we argue release conditions. If it's a serious enough offense, most times my clients just get released with their promise to appear. So, and that's a pretty standard court appearance. Not a whole heck of a lot happens, and it's probably less than 5 minutes. And my clients freak out about it, but I always tell them exactly what's going to happen, and then so the next time it just gets easier for them because they know what they're comfortable with the idea that what I've told them is exactly what's going to happen. So
they know what to expect.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as a day that sticks out, like good, bad, or indifferent, man, I gotta tell you, I mean, there's so many times that I can think of that really stick out in a good way, and they're always, not guilty verdicts. We've tried a case over 3 days, and you wait, 4 hours or 5 hours or 45 minutes, depending upon the case, and the jury comes back and finds your client not guilty of all charges. Those are amazing days, because in some of those situations, I literally have saved a life. The opposite coin of the alternative to what just happened is they go to prison, or they get deported, or they lose everything. So yeah, I mean,
so big stakes,
huge stakes. So yeah, those are always good days. Bad days are losing some of those cases, but I don't know. I really find the ones that trouble me the most are when people don't appreciate what you're actually doing for them, and that you've done everything that you can, but they're not willing to accept responsibility for their part in the process.
Well, that's just entitlement. You can't control that part of the people any more than their emotional response.
Well, no, I'm not trying to control it. It's really the most frustrating thing, and I've had some really bad days when I've done everything I can to get the best result possible, and they're telling me, well, I'm taking the matter to trial. And I said, okay, there's 2 things that have to happen here. One, you've got to back the Brinks truck up so that we can try the case. And then 2, you've got to come to the realization that this is the likely outcome and prepare to go to prison for this amount of time.
Well, that's a big ask.
And then And then they're like, well, you're just not on my side. I'm like, I am on your side. I'm trying to give you a hard truth. So my days are spent giving people hard truths, and it just depends on how they react as to how it might impact my day, because you can take on only so much of that negativity, and then at some point you're just like, I gotta go home. I
Right.
can't handle any more of that level of negativity. So
I just it's kind of funny because like you told the story of that one councilman who called another colleague the C word
Sure.
on the record,
Yep.
and then told you to fuck off multiple times
Oh,
in the
absolutely.
courthouse.
Yep, that happened.
So I was thinking of stories like that, but if anything else had stood out, because that's pretty wild.
Honestly, as much as you find that to be wild, that's not what bothers me. That's not that's a funny story to tell, I think. At least from my perspective, it's hilarious. But and obviously I know the person and other people do, and they find the story funny. But I find that dealing with lawyers, I know what to expect. Dealing with law enforcement officers, I know what to expect. But when you have your own clients personally attacking you or your staff, I mean, verbally, of course, because if anybody gets physical, they get shown the door. They're done. They're trespassed off the property immediately. But that happens too, man. So, I mean, there's a time where one of my clients is up at the front desk and is verbally berating the receptionist. And I hear the voice. I recognize the voice. I know it's one of my clients. I come up. Him and his brother are out there making a scene about things. And I told them, I said, you have two choices. You either take that check and leave, or I call law enforcement and you get forcibly removed from the building. You choose. And he started trying to talk to me. And I said, no. There's no discussion. This isn't a conversation, an argument. You either take the check and leave, or I call the cops. Your choice. And his brother pulled him away and they left. And both of these guys could have absolutely beat the crap out of me. Just one of them, not I mean, both of them. I can't even imagine what would happen to me. But no, I mean, that's the kind of interaction with my own clients where they just don't have any self-awareness. They may have their own mental health issues that obviously I'm not capable of diagnosing, but I mean,
How often do you fire clients?
once a month.
Oh, okay, that's pretty reasonable. I was going to say, Ben, as a segue to talking to you, I don't know how much outpatient you've had in your intern year. I'm assuming very little. But in the outpatient setting, we have clients that, we are clients, God, now I'm using your terminology, Pat. We have patients that in the real world we can fire if they're unreasonable, non-compliant, just combative. It's kind of the same idea. There's the door, and when you work
Like that for me all the time, though. It's I can't just like you can fire a criminal defense client.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I can just fire them. There are steps, and that's what I was going to talk about, especially in a big corporation.
Yeah.
There's like a whole protocol to go through. I wanted to use this as a segue to get Ben to talk about kind of the inpatient medicine side of things. I can always add a little here and there if need be, but yeah, Ben, how's the past year been? How's your day-to-day going?
Yeah, so as Dan originally said at the beginning, I've been unfortunate enough to know Dan for about 11 years. So I think it's coming on.
Dick.
But I'm an intern within a residency, and as Dan said, I'm an internal medicine pediatric resident. So what that essentially means is instead of taking 3 years to either do internal medicine or pediatric residency, I'm doing 2 different programs in a 4-year span. So the way that my kind of day-to-day looks, or on a routine basis, would be 3 months on one service, such as pediatrics, 2 months to 3 months on internal medicine, and then you rotate back. And the idea of that is to get kind of a mix of both inpatient, outpatient, as well as seeing different pathology, or what I mean like disease processes, during different times of the year. So I get a fair amount, actually, and I'm lucky enough that during my residency, we have set and established clinics and clinic days every single week where I will have my own set of patients. So I've had a heavy amount of outpatient, but predominantly my first year and most of my residency will be inpatient, just because of the nature of trying to fit 2 different residency programs into just a 4-year time span.
Right.
So, yeah, currently, like I was mentioning, I'm at the VA hospital, but I've had a slew of different rotations or job opportunities each month, I guess you could say, where I'm working in different aspects of medicine, whether it be emergency department, the ICU, whether that's the medical ICU for adults, the pediatric ICU for kids, or the neonatal ICU. So I've had a pretty good scope, but day to day, I think it's different also though, as you said, because as an intern, we all joke, oh, you're the monk, you're like the note junkie, the note monkey. You're writing the notes, you're
Yeah.
seeing the patients, and usually you're on like an inpatient service. You'll have an attending who is the the senior physician who's overseeing everything, and directly under
Whose license you're practicing on.
exactly the one who thinks that we are going to be making decisions. No, so we'll have an attending, we'll have an upper level resident, which essentially just means anyone who is out of their intern year. And generally, that resident is going to kind of be the direct aid to the attending, as well as helping teach other interns, etc., and help managing the team as a cohesive unit. And then on that team itself, it'll be comprised of, let's say, 2 interns, 3 interns maybe. You'll have medical students involved. You'll have the pharmacists. You'll have your own social worker usually. So it's a very inpatient teams are very dependent on forming strong interpersonal relationships between different departments.
Good. Let me rephrase what you just said. Good inpatient teams. I will say that I've been on many poor ones, and it's so interesting. I don't know if you've noticed. Have you been on a rotation where, in my program, for example, we had a 6-week rotation of inpatient, so halfway through 1 month, our senior would cycle out and we'd get a different senior. Just changing one person on a team just so dramatically changes the personalities and just the inner workings of the team. Just one swap out changes the whole dynamic of the room. Have you seen that or experiencing that?
Yeah, and I think a component, like the way that plays a role in for my day-to-day especially, is for my service, we switch at the beginning of a month. So that means we do a full month on, a full month to the next one. The other programs generally are not on 4-week blocks. They may be on a 2-week rotation, a 3-week rotation. It's all dependent on kind of what their service is. If they're an X plus Y, a 4+1, which is just like a fancy way of saying how the rotations are set up for a residency.
Got it.
But no, it's so true in that one individual can completely change the dynamic, the ebb and flow of how a team is run if personalities mesh, if work is done efficiently. Because everyone has a different style. And I think that's something you need to appreciate as both an intern or a resident, and even as an attending, understanding how each person functions, because residency effectively is trying to teach an individual how to be like you, an attending, someone who's making those decisions later.
Exactly.
But no, I mean, the day to day. Otherwise, I mean, it's not a joke at times where there are some rotations and there's some weeks where maybe you're working 45 hours. But I mean, I'll be damned. When I was in the ICU, there were some weeks where I worked, I think 92, 95 hours. As long as you meet that 80-hour like month minimum or like average, you're good though.
Yeah, it's funny when have you had the experience yet where they're like, listen, I know you've worked, over hours, just report it as 80.
I have heard of some friends in other residency programs that actually have had to do this, and no one is in my loft right now with their head up against me saying you better not say anything. My program is actually really good, I believe, about it.
Good.
And they will actually have warnings for individuals that are getting too close to hours, and then trying to find solutions in which other people may have to take, let's say, a few hours, or finding solutions in terms of, hey, what's going on? Is there something that's not going well? Is there something that Is there a way that we can promote better work, formality, or just being more efficient?
Right.
But
well, that's good because not in my program where I had trained in residency, but definitely some of I think the surgical ones. There was that pressure to not report your duty hours, essentially what it was called, your hours, because ACGME would crack down. And I think one of the years they had like some major because every 3 years I think ACGME does like a review of a program, and they had some major violations. So like that's the crackdown that can happen, and it looks bad. You're abusing your residents if you're not taking into account the hour limits.
No, most definitely, and I think it's something that everyone jokes how we don't really have a life. But I really wanted to like take the time briefly before going into like a funny story or kind of like a depressing story where residency is hard. It's not a joke. And I mean, everyone's work in some way is hard, one way or another, but whether it be time, sacrifices. I mean, I can only imagine the amount of like time Pat has to take away, like he was saying, preparing for briefs when he's trying to do all the other work, training individuals. But,
yeah,
it's something that, for me at least, it could be worse. I could not have a job. I could not be pursuing the education that I wanted. And I have a support system, at least with my residency, where it makes the day-to-day at least manageable.
Good, man.
But going into like some light humor, so I definitely feel blessed in that being with pediatrics, I see a lot of weird things. I feel like I had maybe told you this story, but I definitely haven't told Ramon or anyone else. But I was blessed working Christmas week. Ah, yes. And
blessed.
I was very blessed because, of course, during Christmas, that's when all the kids are getting their Christmas toys. You have adults that are getting inebriated or drunk and getting into accidents. So it just makes for a host of stories. But there was one kid in particular that really stood out. Now, this kid came in having some abdominal pain. Pretty standard thing that you see with kids. But what happened is we start to unravel the story a little bit. Says he hadn't gone to the bathroom. It was hurting like towards his bottom. I'm like, okay, maybe he's constipated. So we get an x-ray of his abdomen or his stomach area to see what's going on. Well, there's no blockage, so that's good. There's no tearing in his intestines, also good. But there is something there.
Oh?
There was a dart gun up his rectum.
Oh, God, that's not where that goes.
So
that wasn't in the instructions.
Oh yes, like the 90s like little toy dart guns that you would play with. One of those just straight up there.
What did you say, Ramon?
I said that was not in the instruction manual. That poor kid.
Well, they also didn't say not to put it
That's
there,
the
so I
point.
guess that's part of it. Yeah, it needs that warning.
That poor kid. Okay.
Jesus.
We try and get this story, and like this kid's very young, and it's like, okay, what happened? It's like, oh well, I shot it up there. Excuse me? What do you mean? Why did you shoot it up there? I don't know. Just did.
Okay.
But
wait, to clarify, it was the dart he shot up there? Or the dart itself was in his rectum?
Yeah, the dart itself. So he had to have taken, based off of his story, he took the gun, spread his butt cheek, and shot it.
Bullseye.
Well, bullseye. Target acquired. Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, essentially we just had to wait for this kid to poop out this bullet. Otherwise, we were going to have to take him to surgery to remove it.
Aww.
Oh, well, did he end up passing it?
Oh, yeah, he passed it. It was all a great story. But then, like, it turned into this whole funny drama thing where it's like, the mom was like, oh, I think the dad and the older brother pressured him into doing it because they would do that.
And that's the other thing, too, that I'm sure starts to make you worry. Like, is this like an abuse situation? That's I'm sure where your mind started.
Yeah, that's a big concern.
That's really scary. But it's as long as everyone is able to rule all that out, then Yeah.
Well, yeah, the kid said, he's like, yeah, I just did it. What was the kid's like kind of tone at that? It was either like, I shouldn't have, and I did. This was an experiment gone wrong.
Just a shy kid, yeah. I mean, what we end up think happened was like the brother, like, you can't turn down a double dog there, of course. So we think he just
of course.
It's against the law.
Fortunately, Patrick has never double dog dared me to do anything like that.
Yeah, you're too young.
Yeah, we are 12. We're 12 years apart, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That being said, I wasn't an accident. I was planned. I was wanted.
Oh, I don't know about that last part, but yeah.
That's right. Sean did want a pool, and that was the big decider,
that
right?
was the
Between me and
problem.
a pool.
Yeah, we could have had the
I think
pool.
he still tells me every once in a while, send me a text like in June and July, be like, you don't keep me cool during the summer. Yeah, so that's a funny point you bring up. So when I volunteered at the ER in Tucson, in fact, gosh, I don't want to get too distracted. I got like 4 stories in my head now. There was like an ER butt box or a butt journal. I think I got rid of the butt box, but the butt journal of...
What would be in the butt box?
Okay, this was decades ago. But point is, they kept a journal. Probably not any kind of... It wasn't an official record, but it was essentially something the ER docs did for fun, which was a record of the different things people had gone to, emergency room for, things they shoved up their keister. And that's not an uncommon thing. A lot of ERs do this ER and medicine in general, like you're saying, Ben, it's a very hard and often dark and life-threatening situations, and so people try to cope with humor and get through things. But that's not an uncommon thing. People, tend to bite off more they can chew or shove up something larger than they anticipate. Thanks, I appreciate you laughing at that one. But yeah, they had like a butt journal of things that people had... the worst one I had heard was a pool noodle. And I still to this day wonder, I'm like, how?
I hope they survived.
Wait, like the full 6-foot pool noodle?
Well, not the whole thing, but essentially the diameter of it.
Yikes.
God, so yeah. Well, that was actually
So
really
quite the
story.
visual there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that story, Ben, because that just got me rolling. I was actually volunteering in the ER, and so I guess I should segue into talking about the outpatient side of things.
Oh, I was going to say something on the bad, but if you want to
go
to the
for it.
outpatient, you can.
Just looking at the time, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, there's funny stories like that with kids, but there's also like the sad stories. And just for like a quick, I'm interested in hospice palliative care, which means I'm interested in the management of chronic pain management for those that are dealing with recurrent issues, let's say, or those that are entering hospice, which means that you have a terminal illness where you have 6 months of care. It's not always the best of days. And it's not just for the clinicians or the doctors involved or for the nursing staff. It's hard discussions with family members. And just to keep it short, there was an individual that came in for, a routine procedure. They were doing their due diligence, doing their checkup that they're supposed to do every 5 to 10 years after, you get that certain age. And they coded on the table. And we came down there, we were able to resuscitate them, but we had to keep them intubated and brought them up to the ICU. Over the next 3 days, though, tried to wean them from intubation, tried to do further scans, but they were down for so long that, there was a clinical decision, a discussion that was held where, what are the options? So I had to gather about 12 different family members in a small room and hold a discussion about, this is what's going on. This is, how your family member is doing right now. These are the options we have. What would your family member want? And for some people, talking about death, talking about dying, and trying to think about how your family member or what your family member would want, it's not easy. I enjoy these topics and these discussions, though, because I think it really needs someone that is willing to bridge both sides, that's going to listen and be there, be present. And I think being present is one of the most important things in these situations, which is why I'm really into them. But needless to say, we had this discussion And, these discussions can occur over minutes, hours. This one in particular was about like 3 different discussions over 2 different days, multiple hours, until they finally came to a decision that they believed that their loved one would have wanted. And so then they withdrew care. But, despite how sad and trying these times can be, I'm always thankful when family members can recognize the work that we're doing and trying to be present for them and trying to like be a helping hand. So even though those days can be sad, they can also be uplifting when individuals recognize the work that you're trying to do and that you're with them.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we all bust our butts in our respective fields, and this is just speaking of my own experience in medicine and hospice and palliative and intensive care. They're very draining. Not just the hours, just having to have those conversations are hard. Having to be that voice, and even in just day-to-day stuff, and like I deal with a lot of arthritis, and it's just hard to tell people like, no, there's not a cure unless you get the joint replaced, and maybe surgery is not a good option for you in particular. And telling people things that they don't want to hear, it's not easy thing to do, and it is nice. I don't feel like it happens very often, but maybe 10 to 15% of the time people are very grateful, and that goes a long way. It's that 10% that helps me get through the other 90%. Not that people are awful or anything like that. It's just a lot of work, which I guess brings me at least to segue into my section. Why is your doctor always an hour and a half late, or whatever amount of time? I like to pride myself on being relatively on time. I think on average I don't really run very far behind, maybe 10 to 15 minutes sometimes. But I'm very good at what I do, and I have very good support staff. And we run like a really well-oiled machine thanks to a lot of my prep work and a lot of...
He's humble too, folks. He's humble too. Anyways, keep going down.
Well, so I see anywhere between 20 to 24 patients in about an 8-hour period. And as a primary care sports doc, that's a good number of patients. It's not absurd. I mean, you'll see surgeons who see 40 or 50 patients in a day, but their meetings are like, okay, all right, you're able to do this, you're able to do this, okay, good, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And then that's the end of the appointment. And so for me, it's more along the lines of actually doing a full physical exam for whatever I'm assessing, and doing, talking them through their treatment options, and then having them decide what they want to do, which takes some time, and then doing it, like an injection or a referral or placing orders for medications, and then writing the note. And I do that 20 times. So Ramon, you said something like 5 minutes, but you do it 400 times a day. Well, I did the math on that, and that translates to 33 hours in a day. So yeah, it adds up. Yeah. And so when you start talking about patient encounters, I frequently have patients who are like, okay, you're here for a 20-minute appointment. You want to talk about your neck, lower back, left knee, and right ankle. And you were referred for your elbow. So first off, no to everything else you said. Not to be rude, I really do. I want to help you, but there is no way I can assess your entire body in 20 minutes. Also, if I try to assess something that you were not referred to on your first visit, your insurance won't pay for it and you'll catch a bill. People don't, I mean, that's kind of what I cop out to, I guess, I would say, so that people can buy into what I'm saying. I'm like, no, you're here for this problem. Let's assess this problem. Because I don't want to half-ass other things and not give you or your other joints or your other problems the time they need. Because I'm only one person and there's 20 other people here today to see me, so I have to allocate that appropriate time. So, that's pretty much what my day in, day out. It's popping in and out of rooms, telling my medical assistant what I need, what I want, and then putting in orders. Maybe getting the note done, usually not. Putting in maybe an initial skeleton frame of a note and finishing it later at home. Yes, I take work home sometimes. But the worst day of work I have had in recent memory happened last week. So I got back from Maui. It was not fun to come back from vacation. Oh. Yeah, I know, my life is hard.
No, it's true though. Because I'm on vacation right now myself, and I can sympathize. I don't want to go back Thursday.
I don't want to
I don't
go
wanna go
back.
back.
Yeah, and it was like that. It's just like that the Sunday blues, but amplified because I was just in Hawaii for 7 days. And so I looked at my schedule the night before because I'm a good doctor, and I look and I see 3 patients whose names I know. And I know they're not happy people. I just know the unfortunate thing is sometimes in medicine, you're going to have pain. I can help your pain. I can make your pain better, but I may not be able to take away all of your pain. And it is hard to get people to understand that, like, listen, you are in this position because of things you've done, injuries you've had, or just problems, and we're going to do what we can, but there may not be an easy solution. And so I had 3 back to back, very upset, difficult, and just not. I feel like a lot of people, when they're having bad days and struggling and working through problems, what they need is a lot more is time and explanation and answering questions than they really do a pill in a bottle or even a script for physical therapy. They want to know that, like, you're trying and that you care and that you're trying to give them the dedicated time to that problem. So 3 20-minute appointments, an hour, ended up taking 2.5 hours between those 3 people, and I was an hour behind, probably more than an hour behind at that point. Essentially for the rest of the day, I worked through my lunch hour. I did not eat. And then I went through my back half of my afternoon, which were all, like, if I have an injection, that's like my catch-up time. Injection and procedure visits are very easy. I didn't have a single one. I had all follow-ups and new patients. I got done that day at like 5:30, and my last patient was scheduled at 3:20. That was like the worst day I've had in a clinic in a long time that I can recall. And it was my first day back from vacation, so it was not a good day.
They heard you were in Maui, and they all banded together, like, "Oh, cool, Dan's coming back this day. Great, everybody go!"
Yeah, everybody schedule now.
Yep.
And so when your doctor is an hour late, and I know everybody's time is important to them. I get that. I know, because my time's important to me. When your doctor's late, odds are it's not because he or she did not care about you. It's because they had to deal with those 3 people who each needed an hour to themselves, or, heaven forbid, the person who's 40 minutes late and demands to be seen anyways. That's usually why I'm an hour late to see you. And I know my patients know me. They know I'm never running late. That whole afternoon was like, wow, why are you so behind? Like, it's been a rough day. It's been tough. I'm still on Hawaii time. Not that you need to sympathize, feel sympathy for me, but
I think you all mentioned this, like, earlier. Like, there's the idea, and I mean, I'm guilty of it, that we don't respect other people, and we think that our time is more valuable, instead of thinking, okay, what is that other individual going through in that day? You're seeing 3 other patients that are taking an hour each day. It's not just about me and my time, though. What is going on? Ramon talking about how individuals coming up, having to do 100+ shots,
No, it never gets that crazy, but just, it's one person getting pulled in a lot of different directions, and I do love it when someone appreciates that. Oh, okay, it's gonna be 20 minutes. Hey, no problem, and then I try to make it happen for him, and it's just. But yeah. Anyway, sorry, Ben, I cut you off.
I just think that for all of you, something that I observe is that it's the world does kind of wear you down as you get older and as you do what you guys are doing for a longer period of time, because much of what you guys do is not dissimilar to what I do on a daily basis. Everybody thinks you're in court making arguments, and most of it is just people management. And at some point, there's a lot of things you have to do. Is you have to start realizing what your value is. You have to realize what your time actually means. And at some point, start drawing lines in the sand to make sure that you're protected, whether it's your staff helping you do that. And hopefully, Ramon, you get more competent staff at wherever you work, whether
The
it's the same
staff
place or not.
that I have are amazing. Yeah, and I don't want to speak ill of my staff. The staff that I still have are godsend, and I'm so glad.
Well, yeah, they're the ones who are still
Who
there and
stick
sticking
around, right?
Yeah,
But I mean, having high attrition is always disruptive to trying to keep efficiency up. And some people are just not capable of being saved. I've come to find out that one, you can't. People's happiness, their own personal happiness, is something that they have to be in control of. And some people are just unhappy humans, no matter what happens, whether they're in pain, whether it's a bad day, whether it's a good day. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
So
there are going to always be people you can't please.
right. And so, like, the advice that I give you guys is protect yourself from the people that are difficult people. Schedule yourself differently and talk to your staff about when you're coming back from vacation, because trust me, it isn't going on vacation is like the best and worst thing for an attorney, because when I come back, inevitably my voicemail inbox is full, and if I don't check my email over vacation, I have 300 or 400 unanswered emails. So no, I get it. It's just that you get more protective of your own personal time, and don't miss those lunches, and don't miss just your own little self-care things because you feel like you have to or obligated to do these things. I think that that's important. If I was going to tell myself as a younger professional,
Yeah, no, I get that. And I'm starting to experience that, and I'm starting to understand that better. It just takes those bad days to really put it in perspective. To tie it back to what Ben was saying, though, and to end on a high note, because we got to wrap up here soon. To end on a high note, that 10% really does make it all worth it for me. Because when I have somebody who gives me a hug at the end of the day, yeah, I know, COVID's over, I can hug my patients. Basically just completely makes my day. I remember the next day, after that day, I had 4 patients who came in back to back to back to back, who I give them a paper, an intake form. How much percent better are you? 10, 25, 50, 75. All of them were 90 or 100. And they were all there, and they're like, I thought about not coming because I was doing well, but I really wanted to thank you because I think you were the reason that I'm feeling so much better. Do you have any idea how, like, a complete polar opposite to the day before that? That 10 to 15% of people absolutely makes my job worth it, and I love doing what I do. But I just wanted people to know, if I'm running late, I swear to goodness, we were raised by, come from a military family, Pat, and law enforcement. If you're on time, you're late. So I hate running late. It burns me up inside. And I really don't want to be that stereotypical doctor who's like 45 minutes late and then has my hand on the door handle the whole time. I do not want to be that person. So those 10 to 20% really make it for me. Ben, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think, Pat said it perfectly. I think like the biggest thing that I definitely know that I need to work on is just not getting bogged down. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people that are residents or just in the beginning of their careers at this age just get beat down and don't get up again.
And the thing for you is, hey, you've got 2 months left. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I know then it's like, oh, well, I have like 3 more years. Yeah, that passes too. There's still a light at the end of the tunnel. And it does get better. And I'll say that to you, and I will say that to people going through a hard time. It will get better. It has to, because, eventually this too shall pass. So, Ben, thank you for being here and for joining us. I'd love to have you back. It was great to have you. And thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. We come out with episodes every week, and we are on all major podcast platforms. So if you enjoyed listening, like, subscribe, follow along, download, etc. on all major platforms. And yeah, no, this is great. I love this episode. So we will see you guys next week for another exciting topic. So thanks and take care.
Also, Salad and Go, if you're listening, sponsor us.
And Ramon's got great ideas about how to mix a salad up.
Yep.
He'll just tell you all about them.
Starfighter Arcade, we like you.
We like you. Give me free t-shirts.
Give me free rounds on Galaga.
Oh, that place is amazing. I love those guys.